Hey everyone, I'm Xoonani. Welcome to a brand new video. Today I wanted to share something with you that's really helping me stay creative during a time when I don't have much inspiration or free time, but still deeply miss painting. Pulling out my sketchbook, grabbing my watercolors and just creating. Because what do you paint when you have absolutely no ideas? How do you even start? I know a lot of you ask me from time to time, how do I begin? How do I take the pressure off so it doesn't have to turn out perfect? So today I want to show you something I've recently discovered that makes it incredibly easy for me to just begin. A while ago I came across an Instagram reel from an artist. Unfortunately, I can't remember their name anymore. Although I'm sure many artists have done something similar. So the artist simply dropped some ink onto the paper and blew it around until these beautiful splashes formed around the edges. Then they grabbed a black fineliner and just started doodling inside the blot, filling it with patterns and lines. And I immediately thought, I have to try this. But before I started, I actually had to give myself a little pep talk. And I think you should do the same if you want to try this technique. I literally told myself, this is just a sketchbook spread where I'm trying something new. If I don't like it in the end, that's completely fine. The goal isn't to create an amazing artwork. The goal is simply to paint, to be creative, to get some color onto the paper and enjoy the process, to draw whatever lines naturally comes out of me and simply accept whatever happens. And honestly, it worked. I approached it with almost zero pressure, filled an entire sketchbook spread, and I had so much fun. You already saw the finished pages a few seconds ago. This was my first try of this technique. Today I'm choosing some bright summer colors because the sun is shining beautifully outside, and I'm filling another spread using exactly the same technique. Feel free to grab your own sketchbook or a sheet of paper and paint along with me, or save this idea for later. I really can't recommend it enough. And future Xoonani, the one recording this voiceover right now, is already planning the next spread like this. So first I simply dropped watercolor onto paper. On one page I used pink, orange and yellow, on the other turquoise, green and lemon yellow. For the video I'm using a silicone straw to blow the paint around because it simply looks nicer on camera. So normally I just blow through my mouth. It's, I guess, much easier, but you can point with the straw a lot better. So do whatever feels easiest or most comfortable for you. On the left side, I created one big splash. On the right, I wanted to see what several smaller splashes would look like together. And honestly, even this very first step is so much fun. It immediately loosens you up. The paint is already so random on the paper that there isn't really a wrong way to continue anymore. The pressure disappears right from the start. The thing I especially loved here was using ochre pink. It glows so beautifully. You really should use neon colors more often. They make me ridiculously happy. Of course, I also used a lot of water so the paint would blow around nicely. That meant I had to wait quite a while for everything to dry. This is also cotton paper here. This is the Strathmore Mixed Media Sketchbook. Another thing that would probably work really well would be using watercolor pencils or Neocolor 2 crayons directly on the wet paint. Those perform beautifully on damp watercolor. I definitely want to try that sometime. For this spread, though, I let everything dry completely, and then on the right page, the very first thing I saw was a snail, then another one, and another one. Suddenly, the whole page was full of snails. The entire page had to become a snail-themed illustration. I simply followed the shapes that were already there in the watercolor splashes. I could instantly see images inside them. If the shapes hadn't been that obvious, I probably would have just started with something simple, maybe drawing random lines like I did in my very first paint blob thingy, which I can show you here. You know how much I love repetitive patterns, just repeating one little element over and over again. It's incredibly relaxing, almost like these Zentangle doodling thingies. But I often see little pictures hidden inside paint splashes and in watercolor backgrounds, and then I simply have to draw them. And again, don't be afraid, just do it. Draw the snail even if it's crooked or weird or doesn't look like a snail you would normally draw, because the whole point is to paint without overthinking. By the way, I'm simply using the Pilot pigment liner here. I've had them for quite a while now, and during this painting session I practically finished both of them. So later in the video you will see me switching back and forth because they kept running out of ink. So I added leaves like little plants between the snails and tiny bubbles. Those became my repeating filler elements. The empty spaces I simply filled with black. I actually really like that look. I can also imagine doing this with very dark watercolor splashes made from indigo, deep purples, burgundy, reds, or rich browns, and then drawing all the patterns using a white gel pen. This simple idea has so many possibilities. Honestly, this technique came into my life at exactly the right time. I've been feeling so creatively blocked lately. Very few ideas, very little time, a lot of things to do. And with this technique, it's suddenly easy again to simply begin, and I don't need my brain so much. No pressure at all, just following wherever the process takes me. And now I actually feel excited to paint again and experiment some more. That's a really good sign. After that, I grabbed a white colored pencil and another darker pencil that matched my color palette here. I used them to bring out some elements and add shadows. I think that made such a big difference. I really love how this snail page turned out. My brain is usually incredibly busy. I'm always thinking about 10 different things at the same time. But somehow these repetitive little patterns give my mind something simple to focus on. After a few minutes, I almost forget everything else and I just keep drawing. It's really relaxing and I always feel a little lighter afterwards. For the second splash on the left page, I decided to fill it with something I always enjoy drawing, in my case, mushrooms. Almost immediately I started seeing mushroom caps hidden inside the watercolor shapes and simply traced over them. I began with the basic forms, later I added patterns and more details. The empty spaces became black again. At that point I honestly wasn't thinking anymore. I just let myself drift. At one point I even draw a mushroom cap where there really should have been a stem, but honestly, who cares? Just keep drawing. Then near the bottom of the splash I suddenly saw this fluffy little furry friend, some kind of tiny creature, maybe a little doggy. I just had to draw it. I never would have come up with that character on a blank sheet of paper. I only saw it because it was hidden inside the paint blot. And I allowed myself to simply follow what I saw. No, it almost looks like the mushrooms are growing out of the creature, which is something I absolutely love drawing anyways. From there I kept developing everything little by little. I filled some tiny gaps with stars because somehow this whole illustration felt magical with the mushrooms and the sweet little creature. I've always had a habit of seeing little creatures or faces or stuff in everything. Sometimes it's clouds, sometimes tree bark, or little patches of moss in the forest, or, to be honest, the bathroom tiles also are full of faces and things and creatures to see in. My imagination kind of fills in the gaps automatically. Do you know this? So these watercolor splashes almost work the same way. I don't really decide what I'm going to paint. I just wait until something appears and then I follow it. I think that's why this feels so relaxing to me. And yeah, I think this exercise also reminds me a lot of walking through nature. Whenever I'm outside, I constantly notice tiny little things that most people probably walk right past. A patch of moss, an interesting leaf, mushrooms growing on an old tree stump, or even tiny creatures hiding between the plants. I always stop and look after them. The more closely you look, the more magical the world becomes. These watercolor splashes feel a little bit like that. Instead of forcing an idea, I simply slow down and wait until I discover something hidden inside the shapes. And somehow that feels much more natural to me. Finally, I went over everything with a white colored pencil and a dark pencil once more. Again, I think that really helped everything stand out even better. In the end, I'm really happy with both pages, but honestly, the best part wasn't even the finished artwork. The best part was simply spending a peaceful, relaxing afternoon with my colors and my sketchbook. I truly recommend giving this technique a try. It brings so much calm and completely removes the pressure. For me, it's exactly what I need right now. Maybe it will be exactly what you need too. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and maybe even a hype and subscribe if you haven't already. That way you won't miss future videos. My upload schedule will probably stay a little irregular over the summer. And a big thank you to my wonderful patrons. You are amazing. Thank you so much. Take good care of yourselves. Have a wonderful time. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now. Your Xoonani.